There we go. We are recording.
You can see that? Oh, I do see that. I'm so technically inept.
So we'll go ahead and get started. I know a few people are still trying to get home, but this is Patty Moeller, licensed mental health counselor, and she graduated from UNF's clinical mental health counseling program a bit before me. Has experience in addiction, domestic violence, eating disorder, couples counseling. What else? I mean, lots of stuff, but
Adding EMDR right now. So
you're doing EMDR right now, yeah. So today the focus is going to be about domestic violence and kind of giving y'all a bit more information about that and what that might look like and how to handle it.
Yeah.
With clients that you could see in the community. So I'm going to turn that over to you, Patty. And we'll work on getting, if you want to give any other introduction before the screen.
No, so
share.
I love if you guys can, if you're comfortable at all with undoing your video so I can see you. I love seeing faces. That's, as therapists, I think that's an important thing. If you guys are worried about eating or doing any of that kind of stuff, hi, don't worry about that. I've got dogs here. I love seeing your dog up in the corner. So I just love seeing the faces, and it's just as easier as a presenter. So if you're really uncomfortable, that's fine too. So my name is Patty Moeller, as Katie said, and it's nice to be here. It's an honor, to be honest. And so my background, as Katie said, was licensed mental health therapist. Been in practice just about 10 years now, a little less than that, and started out. I graduated, and the next day I started my private practice. So that'll tell you a little bit about how I thought about that. And then that being said, you don't get to go hang a shingle out and make any money. So, you end up doing agency work, which is also the best place to learn how to become a counselor. It gives you the most overview that you'll ever have. And I was truly blessed to go into Lakeview Health here in Jacksonville and did part of my intern practice there, working in addictions and alcohol abuse. And then the second part of mine was down at Hubbard House. So not only did I do part of my internship at Hubbard House, which is Jacksonville's domestic violence shelter, I was also incredibly blessed to work there for a number of years. So I feel really blessed that I had that opportunity. And I had the greatest mentor of all time. Her name was Kay Davis. And unfortunately, she died about a month ago, and she was truly one of my dearest, dearest friends. So I even put a post out on Facebook today that I will do this in honor of her. I'll keep the message going and teach therapists the very best way that she taught me. So I'm going to pass that on. And with that being said, I'm also going to give you a small tip, because this is directly from Kay. And one of the Facebook posts that I'm on was talking about how do therapists transition, right? And I have to tell you that if you're going to work in therapy, if you're going to work in any kind of trauma, you've got to find a way to be able to transition at the end of the day. And I will forever be grateful for Kay to teach me this. So as I leave my office at the end of the day, I straighten my office out, I turn my lights out. And as I'm walking out my door, I literally turn around and say, "Thank you for such a great day. I will return tomorrow to start the next day." And I literally can turn how to do that. And that I can't tell you. If you've ever been down to Hubbard House, there's several sets of doors. You go through a gate, you go through another door, you go through another door. And so Kay really taught me to say goodbye at my door. And then at every time I left, and when I finally made those gates, I would make that transition to, I'm done. There isn't anything else I can do except return and do the best job I can tomorrow. And you've got to have a way to be able to turn it off and return to your families, return to your homes in a way that'll keep you healthy. This is a business that will burn you out royally if you're not doing a lot of good self-care. So on that note, and we're not talking about an easy subject. I don't know if any of you have an interest in doing this. Let me make this nice and large. Hopefully you guys can see it. Please let me know. Katie, maybe you can let me know, hopefully. Yeah?
Yes, we can see it.
All right, so you guys, this is my first attempt at doing a nice Canva presentation. So I need thumbs up or thumbs down at the end of this. So I can't see you because I can only see Katie. Maybe I can put all those little faces right there. So today, I love this quote up in the corner. A healthy relationship never requires you to sacrifice your friends, your dreams, or your dignity. Isn't that phenomenal? And that's really important as you're working with people, both men and women and children that deal with domestic violence. Today's agenda is going to try to give you the definition of domestic violence. The key thing to learn, and so many therapists, I can't tell you how many therapists call me and say, I don't know how to safety plan. And it sounds really like a natural thing that we'd be able to do. It is not. It has a protocol. It has some things that if we miss, we can leave people in great danger, along with yourselves. And so I'll definitely be going over that tonight. Katie, do I have an hour? Is that what that is?
Hour, however long you need. Yeah.
And then I want to always leave plenty of time for questions and answers. So if anything along the way comes up, jot it down. Again, I'm not really looking at your faces right now because the screen is up here. Over in the other corner, we're gonna talk about the 5 main areas where we find domestic violence. It's physical violence, it's sexual violence, it's social violence, it's emotional violence, and financial violence. And I think when people hear domestic violence, we don't stop to think. We always think it's either going to be sexual or violent in nature. And yet the social, the emotional, and the financial, they don't get talked about very much, but they are so crippling to people. And I've seen so many different things. I'm privileged to work with the FBI and do human trafficking here in Jacksonville. And again, some of this, the emotional abuse, is absolutely amazing how we get young girls and young men, but primarily young girls, into the setting of human trafficking. What is domestic violence? This is it. It's easy. It's simple to learn. Domestic violence is the purposeful and deliberate behavior to gain power and control over somebody. And I sent Katie the power and control wheel, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But that's the main thing. People don't ever really realize that that's all it is about, but it's about power and control 100% of the time. I don't think I've ever run into a case in these last 10 years that has not been about power and control. And it can be very subtle, and it can be extremely pervasive. It can be the people that do get hit. Remember that most of the time when somebody hits you, they don't leave evidence of it. An abuser does not ever really go and slap you in the face or hit you in the face, because that's going to provide questions. Somebody's going to want to know what the heck's going on. So more than likely, they're going to punch you in your stomach, break ribs, hit you in your back, places where you would have a shirt that you won't see. If you have clients, you guys, if it's Florida and it's 100 degrees out and they are showing up with a turtleneck or long sleeve shirt, you need to ramp that up, that there's something happening. Maybe it's a cutting situation that they are trying to hide from you, but it could very well be that there are physical wounds. So be very attentive to what your clients wear when you talk to them. Are they always in long pants? Have they been wearing shorts and skirts for weeks and weeks, and all of a sudden it's now long pants? Is that because they've been whipped? Is that because they've had a belt to them? Try to be investigative about that. Remember, when your clients come into you, you are evaluating everything about that client. The way they look at you, the way they have eye contact with you, the rapidness of their speech, how they dress. That will tell you a lot, and it's not to judge it. You're trying to gather information. What are some of the causes of domestic violence? Jealousy and possessiveness. That is a big one. I always try to alert, as you're working with your clients and somebody that's dating, really do a lot of work with educating about the jealousy and the possessiveness. If you're finding that your client's talking a lot about that, be heightened again to ask good questions of your clients to see if this is a jealousy that they can't go out, that they can't be with their girlfriends. The possessiveness. I recently talked to a young lady who's been dating this gentleman, and it was a college situation similar to where you guys are, not in this state, by the way. And when we were going back over everything, the person's eyes just kind of grew big. And I was like, what is, tell me what's happening. And they were really honest and said, oh my gosh, on the very first date, we met at a college party. And every time I talked to another person, not even just a guy, there was so much jealousy that he didn't want me talking to people. That should be a red flag, red flag, red flag, that if you can't be at a party of 200 people and you've met for the first time and there's jealousy, that's a big red flag. You got to talk about that kind of stuff. Domestic services, whether somebody's getting together so that they can have their house cleaned. You actually are seeing a lot of people, and it kind of goes back to some of the human trafficking, where we're hiring people to take care of children as nannies, as housekeepers. But oftentimes that is to have power and control over somebody, and it can be starting out as a simple job to kind of clean my house, but turn into a very violent physical, emotional, or financial abuse. Sex. And that is a lot about some of these men. And I'll say men because that's more predominant, but I also want to be very aware that I don't want to be sexist on this, because a lot of men come to my office and I do see them for domestic violence in different ways. So always be aware of that. But having sex as a control thing, that can be from when I want it, and you're at my beck and call. That can be withholding sex. If I find somebody in my office that said, well, we haven't had sex, and I think I'm talking a couple weeks or a month, and maybe we can talk about that. How long are you talking about? Oh, the last 6 years. What? And if I do my investigative, I wouldn't have just said what, but if I do my investigating, sex might be that thing that's actually withheld. And that's such an embarrassing thing for that person to disclose. Well, my husband and I haven't had sex in 5 years, 4 years. They might not be telling that. And that actually can be, not always, I use the word can be, a way of maintaining power and control over somebody. Blame. Always looking to blame the victim. If we take a little 2-year-old and we have them in our room and they're in a home, and we simply keep saying, hey, you're an idiot, you're stupid, you can't do that, you're not going to be anything, you're not worth anything, and that never ends, guess what? That person will more than likely grow up to feel those things, worthless, like I'm an idiot, all those types of things. So a lot of time that blame game, we have people that are constantly told, you're stupid, you'll never amount to anything without me, you'll never find somebody better than I am. All of those things makes it turn around. The gaslighting things, if you don't know what gaslighting is, make a note to ask me about that at the end, and we can talk about gaslighting. I don't have that specifically on here. Denial and minimizing the violence. Any abuser will always deny, I didn't hit you, that didn't happen. How'd you get that black eye? Well, you hit me yesterday. I didn't hit you. You're just so dang clumsy. You just ran into the door again. So it's constantly turned back onto the person. And so when you live in that environment long enough, you start to doubt yourself. You start to wonder, oh my gosh, is that really happening? Like, oh, wow, am I really losing my mind? Most people that come into me do not come in because of domestic violence. They come in and they say things to me like, I don't know who I am. I feel like I'm losing my mind. I don't know how to make decisions. All of those things are clues for me to go look deeper into what's happening on their personal front. What does it look like? I'm going to run through these, and you're free to send me a text or contact me. I have this on my website and would be happy to share this with you. So what's it look like? Embarrasses you with put downs, often in front of others. Sitting at dinner, it's like, oh, can you believe how stupid that shirt looks on her? And when you say those kinds of things in large groups or any kind of comment, or, oh, you should have seen how she played tennis yesterday. It was so stupid. She couldn't eat anything. Man, eyes and ears alert. Look at how you act in ways that scare you. So I'm going to teach you, just so you know, and you'll get pretty good at this, the international sign of that you are about to get your ass handed to you. The international sign of domestic abuse is a fist with a hand over it. So if you're just standing at a party, I'll try to put my screen down. If you're standing at a party, and I can scan for parties, and if you've got groups of people all talking, and I scan the room, and if I ever see somebody standing like this, I watch who they're contacting, because that's the international sign of I do not like what you're doing. And when we leave here, all bets are off. And every single woman that I have ever worked with in domestic violence has always said there is an international sign for them. And again, it's a hand over a fist, which just looks real comfortable. And it can be anywhere. It can be down by your waist. It can be up at your chest. It just means game over. I'm jealous. I'm angry. It's not going to go well for you. Control what you do, who you see or talk to, and where you go. And so there's that whole control thing. A lot of people are not allowed to go to school, because if you get an education, you might get a better job than I would. And I don't want you doing that. I also don't want you to have an education, because that means you might work outside of the home. And if you work outside of the home, then that means that what I'm doing to you might be caught. So I'm not going to do it. And it comes subtly, everybody. I want you to know that this is not something that happens truly overtly. It might be a conversation like this. Hey, hun, you know what? Kyle, I'm making enough money right now, and we've talked about having kids. I would love it if you just stayed home. Wouldn't that be awesome? You could stay home, you could raise the kids, you'd be home after when they're home from school. That sounds so innocent. It sounds amazing. It's a control. And not everybody. And if you're in that situation and you've chosen to stay home, even though you're all here at school, remember, I'm not putting everybody into this basket. I'm giving you highlights of things to look for. Somebody who never finished a degree, go after, get curious. That's my best information for you, is get curious about why somebody didn't finish their schooling. Is it because, their husband didn't want them to? They didn't feel it was important? That's really something to go get curious about. Who you see or talk to. You know what? I don't like Liz very much. Every time you come home with talking to Liz, it's just like crazy talk. You can't see Liz anymore. No, I don't like Liz. That's a control thing. Liz might be onto the fact that she's married to somebody that is violating her in any way. And of course he wants to run interference with Liz. Or where you go. Oh my goodness, I don't want you going to church. I don't want you going to work. I don't want you going to school. Church is a big one. And some of these things I hope you are starting to identify as you're being isolated. And so when you're isolated from groups that might recognize what's happening to you, an abuser will want to keep you away. Stops you from seeing your friends or family. That's one that I think we see a lot. Do we have to go over there again? I just don't want to hang out with your brother. He's such a pain. I don't want to do that. Why don't we go do something fun on our own? Again, that sounds so innocent and sounds so much like they want to spend time with you, but they're actually trying to groom you, get you away. I see a lot of people that will talk about, oh my gosh, he just hates my mom or dad or brother, sister, name it, uncle, aunt, whoever. More than likely somebody's on to something and trying to help that person by saying, you know, did that seem right to you that you don't have a credit card? Well, yeah, but Billy says it's fine because he takes care of all the finances. And then she goes home and goes, yeah, Aunt Claudia was wondering why I don't have a credit card. That'll stop. Won't let her see Aunt Claudia ever again, more than likely. Take your money or your security check. Make you ask for money or refuse to give you money. So somebody who's on a real strict, you get $50 a week, and that's to pay for all the kids' clothing, their school stuff, and the groceries. Wow, when it's so disproportionate and that's all you get, that's a sign of financial abuse. Tidbit for all of you, which I didn't know this until I went to work for Hubbard House. So Hubbard House is, I never disclose where it is because that's against our ethics of what we would ever do. So I never disclose where it is. But then Hubbard House came up with the thrift shop on Beach Boulevard. And it truly is the Hubbard House thrift shop. Unbeknownst to most of you, but I'm going to tell you in on a secret, there are 3 or 4 therapists there on the side building. So listen to how perfect this is. If you're in trouble, you can walk into that thrift shop. Your partner might be out in the car. They will be able to get you into a therapist to say, I'm in trouble, I'm trying to come up with a plan. They will hand you a ticket to allow you to go shopping at the thrift shop for free or for 50 cents. So you go back out to the thrift shop, pick up a couple kids' clothes, walk back out to the car or go home and go, look, I went to the thrift shop today and I bought 5 shirts for 50 cents. I'm the best. Never letting on that they actually saw a domestic violence therapist. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So I love that piece to that. And that's something a lot of people don't know, but I try to tell as many people as I can so that if you know that somebody's in a dire situation, they can go to the thrift shop and still receive some help. Making all of the decisions. You don't get to make where you go to dinner, what movie you see, what clothes you wear. It's crazy how the clothes are a big one, what you can do and what you can wear. They tell you that you're a bad parent or threaten to take away or hurt your children. People don't understand why men and women stay in these relationships, and it's often for this one. If you do X, I will kill your dog. If you do X, I will go kill your parents. Remember, that's not the first thing that is said, but it is something after a certain amount of time, there's been all kinds of abuse. You now truly believe your abuser. When your abuser says, I'm going to beat you tonight, and that person does, that happens repetitively, you now start to believe that person. So there's that whole thing of, I don't know that that person wouldn't hurt my animals or hurt my children or steal my children. So that's something to really be careful of. Prevent you from working or attending school. I already talked about that one. Act like the abuse is no big deal, that it's your fault, or even deny doing that. I talked about that a little bit in the beginning. So it's kind of like, oh, it really wasn't that bad. It wasn't that big of a deal. You're the one who slipped and hit your head on the coffee table. I didn't push you. You just slipped on the rug. There is, when I worked at Hubbard House, and maybe Katie has seen this one, but in the domestic violent world, there's this very short clip out there that we use often, and it's a family scenario. You can tell that they're in the kitchen. It's kind of a U-shaped kitchen. And the woman is in the corner, and you can see the man walk in. And he doesn't do anything but just walk. And he just keeps walking. And he just keeps walking. And by now she's alert and she's turned around. And he doesn't say anything. He doesn't utter a word. The terror on this woman's face is beyond belief. You know with every fiber in your body that that woman thinks she is going to die right there. You can tell on the look on her face, she knows that there are weapons in this kitchen, that this is her, she's going out. And he gets and he stops to about this far in front of her face. And he just stares at her. And then he nonchalantly walks away. It is the most terrifying video to be as somebody who watches it. I can't imagine being that woman that is the woman in the video. It's so powerful. So it was so threatening, yet there wasn't, he didn't say he was going to hit her. He didn't pick up a knife. He didn't beat her. It was the threat. Remember that threats are also part of domestic violence. So somebody said, well, he's never acted on it. Threats are domestic violence. One of the great questions to ask one of your clients when I'm sitting with somebody is I'll always say, so do you think this man is a good dad? And most everyone, he's a great dad. Like he takes them to the baseball games and he does this and he's the scout leader. And I'll go, so a great dad beat their mom to a pulp last night. A great dad takes the mom and hits her with a whip, calls her stupid. And I'll actually use the names. You know, if she has told me that they've used this C word or the B word, I will actually use it straight out because I want, for some people, I need that shock value just to remind them because it's repulsive. If somebody, so I'll say to somebody, so what's it feel like to be called a cunt? And they need to hear that because it sounds so horrible. And that's individual too. Please remember that I know my clients very well before I would go there. But that's also okay to be able to do so that they can hear the cringe-worthiness of that, so that they can start to relate to how that feels for them. Destroy your property and threaten to kill your pets. I talked about that, but destroy your property is a good one. We had a woman who lived at Hubbard House for over a year, 1 year. And the reason is that an abuser will destroy all of anybody's property, the documents, birth certificates, insurance forms. This woman happened to be from a different country. And what her abuser did is in front of her, gather all of her papers, her passport, her immigration, her anything that had anything with her name and tied to it. And he walked her out to the backyard and lit it all on fire. And we had absolutely no way to even know that this person was a human being that existed on this earth. And so remember that I don't like using the word typical, but the average, I guess, the average person will not choose to leave an abuser until about 7 times. There might be 7 attempts, right? Oh, I think I'm gonna go, or I'll go to my sister's for a while. There'll be 7. If it gets to that point that they don't get out prior to that, the most deadly time is any number after 6. That is now going to more than likely, as a therapist, you've got to get in your minds that this is now going to be deadly. Unfortunately, I have buried many a woman that did not make it out because it is a tough population. I never take it as if, oh, he won't do this. Not in my mind. I know full well, and I will do anything in my power to help somebody. And remember, we can call 911 to do wellness checks. We can do all kinds of things. We'll talk about that in the safety planning. And I'm also, be prepared, get yourself some training. If you're going to work with people in domestic violence, make sure you have some good training. I was about a year and a half ago in Pier 1 Imports, and just standing there at the corner, and you could hear, it was myself, the store manager, another employee, and then a man walked in. I just want my rug. It's the rug I have in my house. I just want my rug. But you could tell it went from, oh, what a great day, what a pretty rug, to nobody talking. And I was like, what just happened? I mean, it just got icy. And I'm working at Hubbard House. I'm on full alert. And I was like, oh man, that's weird, because it's middle of the day. Then I saw one employee walk away, and I saw the man follow her. And so I looked at the manager and I said, I do work at Hubbard House. I'm well trained. Do we have a domestic violence situation? And she said, yes. And I said, then here's what we do. We are going to walk back to the back of the room. And I had already scoped out in my head where I knew the exit was for me. I had already dialed 911, and I had it on speakerphone. And I said, we will walk back to the back. And as soon as you get back there, I want you to call her in as if you're going to a meeting, and I will call your name and distract him. And at that point, the two of you slip out the back door. And I, scared? Hell yes. But here's the other thing. Along with my training, I know to always keep something between me and the abuser. And I chose 2 widths away. So he was in an aisle. I had a bunch of furniture and other things. There was an aisle, and then I was on the pillow lane. And I did that on purpose. And so as they walked back, I simply said, is this pillow? Which was enough to make him turn towards me. They slipped out the back, and and mind you, I had the police on the phone the whole time. And I simply said the address. I'm at Pier 1, I'm on Atlantic Boulevard, we have a domestic violence. And I kept saying, you don't want to do this. You will walk out of here. We're going to walk out of here slowly and carefully, and don't do anything. And so he knew he was being recorded. He could see the phone. I held the phone up, and we walked out. And by the time we got out to the outside, the Pier 1 was surrounded by policemen, and he was taken into custody. So know your limits. Do I suggest that if you haven't had the training? I didn't go stand next to him. I was very aware that I was positive he didn't have a weapon on him. I had told them that already, but it also bought that person time to exit. I have also come around situations where you're in the parking lot and there's loud screaming. You don't want to ever interject yourself into a situation, but I will stand there with my phone out and say, if you need me by any chance, I'm happy to help you in any way if you want to walk over here. Oh, no, we're good. We're fine. Sorry. And that might be enough to just kind of flip it off. But I don't ethically feel good about leaving somebody that I think is in a domestic abuse situation. I won't insert myself in any other time. There's been somebody in my neighborhood who's been domestic violence, and we can hear the yelling and screaming. Call the police, let them come. Not going to go down there and knock on a door. Never knock on a door. Never try to get that close to somebody that you don't know the situation. Intimidate you with guns, knives, and other weapons. So this is a great one. I've had many a client that has said that they were just sitting there on a particular night, and all of a sudden the person went over and got the handgun or the gun and decided to clean the gun. Cleaning the gun is purely a threat. Let me tell you that I have the gun, it's out, it's available, and it's clean, it's ready. That's not just your hunter that's going deer hunting or duck hunting or any of those kinds of things. That's actually somebody who's doing that as an intimidation factor. Shove you, slap you, choke you, or hit you. I have on my website a form that I will read to clients when they go, no, this isn't abusive. And it's kind of this list. And you get to the end and I always fold it up and I say, hey, just take this quick list for me and check it off, and they'll check it off. And I had one young lady not too long ago. So she took the test. I think there's 15, 17 things like on it. And she had 12. And then I said, can you read that last line? And she turned it and undid it. And it just simply says, if you have just one of these, it's possible you're in a domestic violence situation. And she just broke out into tears knowing she had 12. But that was a great moment for her to go, oh, I got to pay attention. I got to pay attention to this. So how it looks. I don't know where to put us, Katie. Threats through the email. You know, you might get the emails that are coming that if you ever do this again, don't do this again. So it's kind of, you can be at work and get this email that is very threatening to you, but you don't want to let your coworkers know that there's trouble. And that's a very powerful way. Stalking. Stalking's one of those things where they always know where you are. They show up at the grocery store why are they showing up at the grocery store? I've seen it quite a bit of times, just so you all know, each one of your phones, right, has a GPS system. You can go into your GPS system and turn it off. Please be aware that does not work. If you're working with a client and they have a GPS system, you have to call your carrier in order to turn that off from the carrier side. And that's a little unknown fact for people, but we couldn't figure out why this one abuser was getting a client at Hubbard House all the time. I mean, she would go to the grocery store for a job interview and he would show up. And so for funs and giggle, I disarmed mine there. And then I called AT&T and I said, it's still pinging down here. Like, why? And she said, oh, you need us to turn it off. So you have to get your people or you to turn it off at the carrier level, not just at your level, in order to make sure you're not tracked. See that little vehicle right there next to the word stalk? Don't forget that people love to put monitoring devices in a car, on a tire. Those things actually happen. That's not just in the movies. Those are real life things. Seen it happen many, many times. They're readily available. You can get them anywhere on the internet. I have one client that probably once a month, she has gotten to know a very good mechanic, and she nonchalantly shows up at the mechanics and has him go through the car, and he's trying to help her and protect her as well. So she's befriended this mechanic who's specifically looking for the tracing, which is a fabulous thing. She just got very blessed because this was a random guy at a mechanic store that recognized the situation. Monitor, again, I've already talked about that, monitoring your every move, where you go. You told me you would be gone for 20 minutes. You've been gone for 30. Who were you seeing? Who were you sleeping with? So that's monitoring your every move. Impersonate. And I have a computer there for lots of reasons, because a lot of people unfortunately create fake Facebook pages, create different identities, and might kind of befriend you, get to know you after weeks and weeks, and then finally you divulge, oh my gosh, I'm in this very abusive relationship. Boom, you're done. It's really not a friend. It's really the abuser. All of these things that I'm talking to you and showing you, I've witnessed, I've seen. So it's not anything that we're, quote, making up. It's all life. Why stay? This is one of those that I can honestly say, I kind of wish I had floated this in there, but not good enough at technology yet. So crazy love, right? Love is crazy. And it can be a wonderful thing. I always remind any one of my clients to remember that you fell in love with this person. If this person ever walked up to somebody and slapped them in the face and said, well, now do you want to go on a date? We would all be like, hell no. But that's not the way it happens. It happens slowly. It happens over time. the isolation can look like, oh, I don't really want to go out to dinner tonight. I just love being home with you, which sounds great and romantic and wonderful. And then 8 months later, you don't have a single friend around you, but you don't realize what's happened. Weak. I don't like the word, but they get you to believe you're weak. It's not that they are weak. It's that they get into your brain so you think you're weak. You lose your confidence. It's not that any man or woman is weak about this. We don't see it coming. We do not see it coming. Afraid. We stay because we are told that your children will die, your parents will die, your animals will have its ears ripped off. You're so afraid at that point that you actually believe these things. I'll take your best friend out. Any of those things. Finances. I have one lady right now, 20 years in an abusive relationship, can't figure out financially how to get this person out. And they're so in their head, it's going to just take months and months, probably years, to get this person to gain the confidence back to be able to do something and put themselves in a better position. Slide you guys over here. Can you see me, Katie, when I slide you over there? I'm just curious. Yeah? Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yes, we can.
So on to thank you.
Yeah.
In your head. So murder, that's the other one. Again, it's a very lethal situation. Anytime it's when somebody's leaving is the most deadly. The very knowledge that I'm going to leave you, this is it, I'm gone. That is the most deadly time. So I always instruct my clients how never to use those words. We'll safety plan, different techniques, different ways, but never to use those words. I will, if one of my clients needs to go back into a home to gather information, papers, clothes, we always call the police, and she gets a police escort in, gathers the things, and goes out. Please remember, that's why our police departments are there. They are happy to assist you. So many of us don't think, well, I don't want to bug the police. Bug them. That's not bugging them. That's doing their job, and they're so happy to do it. I've worked my tail off to get to know really well the policemen down in Jacksonville Beach, where my office is, and a little bit, more in Ponte Vedra, but I know the ones right around me because a lot of my clients come from around me. I have direct cell phone numbers with some of those guys. I have, a lot of ins with some of the detectives and the people that answer the phone, because I've worked my tail off that they know I'm a legit therapist. When I call and say, I need help, we're going to get help. So go out of your way to make those connections with law enforcement attorneys. It's important. He's sorry. You're going to hear that time and time again. Of course he's sorry. Remember, domestic violence used to be in a circle. We used to think people were on a like a rat's wheel, right? We don't anymore. Oh, I should have put this in as a slide. My apologies. Note to self. It's a roller coaster. Okay? And so the roller coaster, I really wish I had this as an example, but as you can see on a roller coaster, down here is what we call, in the bottom phase of that ride, is what we call the honeymoon phase. That's the, I'm so sorry, I love you, I'll take you out to dinner, here's some diamonds, here's some red roses, I didn't mean to do it. And now we start chugging back up on top. And remember, it's only a certain amount of time. By the time they get to the top of this roller coaster is when the explosion will happen. An abuser can't maintain their regulation for very long. Every abuser has their own set of regulation. For some people, I've seen not abuse people for 2 or 3 months. I've seen it go for years, and I've seen it daily. I've seen it in the morning. So it's really that roller coaster, but we need to figure out what it is with that particular abuser. But we do see it on a roller coaster, honeymoon phase to the abusive phase. Bearable. Go back to my lady who's been here. If she's in my office and she's sitting opposite me right now and there's my window, she'll stare out that window. And I'll go, tell me about that. Patty, I know what it is, and it's bad. I know it's bad. And I go, so what about out there? Worse. I don't know what's out there. I know I'm going to be beat. I know I'm not going to have dinner when I walk out of here tonight. I know I can't pay for this, and I'm paying you under the table. But out there, that's scarier. So a lot of people will stay and bear the abuse because what's out there is scarier. That's why we have to have people like Hubbard House and Betty Griffin House, and blanking on the other ones, and I apologize about that. And it's always your fault. If you hadn't just pushed my buttons, you knew that would piss me off. This is your fault. So it's always your fault no matter what. You were 25 minutes late. You knew what was going to happen. You were talking to that man at the party. You knew what was going to happen. It's always your fault. Here we go, safety planning. This is the part I like to get to. I'm looking at the time, and I know it's just about 8 minutes till, right? You guys have a plan. Have a plan. You don't just say to somebody, walk out of the house. That's the most deadly. So A, you have a plan. I'm going to yell and scream and try to get this point to you about the secret word. Please get this right, or you get people in trouble. Put a highlighter on it, designate this. The secret word is to be used between the victim and one other person that would be willing to call 911. I'm going to repeat that. It's between the victim and one other person who is willing to dial 911. You never insert yourself into a situation. So I often use the word grapefruit. Wow, that grapefruit I had yesterday was amazing. If I call Katie and say that, and Katie's my buddy, and I say, Katie, if I ever say grapefruit, you've got to call 911. I need to trust Katie with my life. Because if Katie goes, well, is it really that bad? I bet if I just went over to Patty's house to see what's going on. Now Katie comes over and it's turned violent. Katie dies with me. I just did this conversation with an attorney named Molly Sasso. She does a lot of work here in town, and she and I present quite a bit on domestic violence. And Katie had the case, I don't know, Molly, sorry, I saw Katie's name right there and you were shaking your head and I was like, wait, that's not who I'm talking about. Brain cramp. So I was talking with
Molly is.
Yeah, Molly Trip. But she had the case, I don't remember the name exactly she does, it was her client, but the client, they were trying to get her out of a domestic violence situation. And her girlfriend came over to her house to try to help her. The abuser showed up and shot both the wife, the victim, and the victim's best friend, and killed them both. And this was about 4 years ago, I believe. I mean, it was just horrible. It was all in the paper. And again, that was let me come help you. No, don't come help me. We're all going to end up dead. All lives are important, all lives. The friend was a mother of 3. I mean, it just, that didn't need to happen for the friend. And I'm certainly sad it happened for the victim. It shouldn't have happened. So I don't want to diminish that at all. But by calling the friend in, just ended up even more tragically. So I'm going to say it again because I got to. Secret word is one word between the victim and a close person that will only dial 911, will not hesitate to do that, has the place where the person is, and will not insert themselves into the situation. Duplicate all documents, all of you. I don't know if there's a man on here, only a small smidgen of this, but even as women, anyone on here should have a duplicate of all your forms. And I mean all of them, your birth certificate. I'm going to start going blank here. Your birth certificate, passports, insurance documents, Social security numbers, bank numbers, bank card numbers, anything, your children's health records. Oh my gosh, we have so many women and children over at Hubbard House that we don't know if they're immune, the immunization, say that one twice at this point, their health records, that we can't prove whether they can go to school or not because we can't get those documents. Again, I told you the story of the woman at Hubbard House who had her documents destroyed. Number one thing abusers will do is destroy documents so that they can't get a job, can't prove who they are. And it's just, now they're stuck in the house even more. Do not give your attorney if you want to, but remember, an attorney's not 24/7. Your bank deposit box is not 24/7. These documents have to be someplace that you can get them at 2 a.m. on Sunday morning. If that's your best girlfriend, that's fine. Go get them there. If that's at your parents' house, my next one, hide a bag. Have clothes ready to go when you're getting ready to exit and you don't know when you're going to exit. I've had many a woman put some clothes in a bag and bury it in their backyard and come back in the middle of the night and dig it up and keep on moving. I've had people say, you can bury it in my yard. And they buried it in the neighbor's yard and snuck back in the middle of the day and uncovered it because he's at work. And they knew the cameras were off. So hiding that bag's real important. You don't want to be, in a hotel or or Hubbard House for months and not have any clothes. That's zero fun. It's zero fun anyway. File for a restraining order. A lot of women and men do not like to do this because it feels like it will be antagonizing their abuser. And there's two sides to that coin. One, I try to get people to get a restraining order. Is it going to stop somebody from killing somebody? No, it is not. I'm aware of that, but I'm looking for a record of this person being abusive. I'm looking for evidence of this to be documented, not, well, I was going to do that. And yeah, he hit me 4 times last month. Let's document it. Let's know that information. That's my next one. Keep an evidence log. And I say keep evidence, meaning take pictures of yourself, take pictures of your wounds. I have pictures of those in my clients in my office. So if they need them for when they go to court, I do have some of those along with other people. I can be a keeper of documents. I'm just not going to be that one 24/7. And we know that I'm a duplicate. So I like that evidence, making sure, documenting phone calls, just screenshot how many text messages you got. Save your voice recordings of him telling you he's going to come blow you up and your family up. That's evidence. So I get my clients to get really good at documenting. Always have a job. I always tell any person, even if you're at home with 3 kids, have a job. Have something. I just work at Swoozies for 2 hours a week. I don't care what it is, but it keeps you in the workforce. It keeps you looking like you stayed in the game. And that's really important to be able to say, well, when's the last time you worked? 15 years ago? Well, what have you been doing? Being abused? I mean, that's not the way we answer it, right? But even having just a part-time gig can help people get out. Plus you can be hiding and squirreling some of that money away. I'm trying, Katie. So we are at the last slide. So here, I wanted to tell you this because this is, both of those chains are chains. And I try to describe somebody's brain as being that drawer full of chains and your brain is so snarled. And I actually got on after I was working on my presentation today and found these two, right? This necklace up in the upper left, the darker one, the black one, right? You want to go out on this hot date with your friend, your girlfriend, whatever, and you want to wear that necklace, but it's got that knot in it. And you're like, well, I don't have time to get that knot out. And you're like, gonna try. And then now you're sweating in your hair and you're like, oh, fine, another necklace, right? This one over here, if you want that little brown thing right there and you go, oh, that's my favorite necklace. I want to wear that tonight. Good luck. Good luck getting that little necklace out. That's my abused person's brain. And it's my job, it's my honor to help somebody figure out how are we going to get these knots out one little bit at a time. Put on your patient's hat, get your own self-care. It's hard, it's frustrating when nobody will leave. It's frustrating as all get out when they die. One of the worst stories, and I'll tell you this, and then I'll tell you about the rep, is we had a woman out for over a year, lived with us for a while, got herself a job. She's out, she's about. It was just, you know, we're happy. And she came in and talked to us and was just on top of the world. She was getting her new house. She and her daughter were going to move in, and it was just awesome. And then we got the phone call. This is over a year. She had her sister and her sister's boyfriend helping her move in. And the sister and her boyfriend were borrowing the victim, and I don't want her, she was a survivor, I'll call her a survivor, was borrowing the sister's car because the sister had the moving truck, right? The survivor had asked Grandpa to take care of the baby because we're moving. Who wants a baby around? Who wants a 2-3-year-old? I think she was 3. Who wants a 3-year-old when you're moving? It's just too hard. Sister and boyfriend pull up in the car. Abuser comes down the street, recognizes the car, assumed it was his ex, got out of the car, shot both of them. She arrived in the truck to see what was happening, got out, ran to the front door, and he literally shot her in the head. It is the father of that baby. My entire body right now, you guys, is just like, I got to tell you, it's on fire. I don't think I've ever I don't think I'll ever get over it. I don't think this feeling will ever pass. She was out for a year. She had a job. She was doing all the right things. And we lose people. And it's sad. And to be honest, I'm okay with crying with you guys right here because it's hard work that we do. And I don't ever want to forget that that woman lost her life and that Grandpa stepped up. And every one of us from Hubbard House showed up at that funeral. And they tell you, as a therapist, you don't go to funerals, you don't do that stuff. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you show up to support one another, to be there for one another. The work we do sometimes is hard. And to be personal, I'm glad it still affects me because we can get so hardened to this business that it doesn't affect us. Don't let that happen. Care, not to the point where you don't have boundaries, but care. So the rep, this is my name that I came up with when I worked at Hubbard House, because Kay, who I talked to you about in the beginning, we would sit there forever and go, how does this happen? These are bright, beautiful women, and how? What's going on? And so I named him the rep, short for representative, because he reps. He shows up and he takes people out to dinner, and he's charismatic, and he's bright, and he's intelligent, and here's some flowers, and let's go to Jekyll Island, and oh, gal, I want to take you to the nicest restaurant, and you deserve this. And then as soon as he has full control, I don't need the rep, and the rep gets thrown away. And now we're left with cold, hard abuser. And that's what women have all these years told me. He's back. This is the man that I fell in love with. Remember, I never discourage the women from knowing that they're in love with these people. That's a strong emotion. I don't try to take that away from them. That's honest. But when the rep shows back up, that's the honeymoon phase. Let's go to dinner. Let's go to Jekyll Island. Let's do all these things. Yeah, so that's why I call him the rep. And I love, you know, they just represent themselves differently. So we are at the end of that. I'm going to show you two things, which I sent to Katie. Katie, now I don't know how to get out of this. So let me do this. You guys still with me?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. So I'm just going to pull this up. Can you see that? Power and control wheel. Sent this to Katie.
No, it's not showing up. I think
Okay.
you
I'll
have to.
stop sharing, but I sent it to Katie. I sent her both. Let me go back to this. I sent Katie both the power and control wheel and the equality wheel, and both are important. Both are great to have in your office. A lot of
Do
family.
you want to share one, Patty?
Yeah, if you've got one.
Yeah, let me just pull it up really quickly. Which one?
Power and control is awesome. The equality is really good too, because it shows you like, oh my gosh, I don't have that and I'm not doing that. So that's also a really great one as well. So either one, and you can look those up. I keep them in my office. So I had the PDF in the office, but you can look those up.
You see it?
Yeah, there's power and control. So there, it just goes through and really lets a victim really kind of see what they are. Oh yeah, I don't get to keep my job. I have to ask for money. Oh, wow, you're calling me names. You're playing mind games with me. Male privilege, treating you like a servant, making all the big decisions. So that kind of is a great wheel to help people really be able to see what's going on. And they might not be aware. You know, if you go through this power and control wheel slowly with them, they'll start to understand, oh my goodness, this is me. Because remember, it's been going on for a long time. They just don't even know it's happening to them anymore.
Right. I'll stop sharing. And I will post those on the Blackboard site for the course, so y'all have both wheels. And
I would love it if you guys will shoot me some questions. I'm going to grab my water because I'm just dying. I'm parched, but keep talking because I'm right here.
I actually have a couple questions, or I have one question whenever she gets back. So.
Okay. No, I'm back here. I never really left.
Oh, okay. So we actually, in the textbook, it mentions that oftentimes marginalized populations or populations of color, they have almost complicated experiences of protectiveness. And although they might be experiencing differing levels of abuse, that it, like a direct quote says, feminist family counselors may not understand the concerns of women of color regarding the safety of the men in their lives, like even though that they are experiencing different levels of abuse. I'm wondering if you have, you know, any, like, sorry, my cat has his, he was pulling my shirt down. My cat had his claw on my shirt. So, so I was wondering if you,
right?
yeah.
So yes, I can talk to that. I'd like to expand it. It's just not women of color. We've got to look at culture. So I'd rather it be talked as a cultural thing versus just maybe a black and white kind of idea, because each culture is extremely different. We also have to look at this as generational. And so if we've come from grandparents and nobody's told us that grandparents have been abused, these things, these cultures get passed down from generation to generation. And I got to tell you, there's a lot of people, or not a lot, let me back that word up. That's a terrible word to have in my even vocabulary. I have worked with certain people that when their dad is the abuser, who wants to step up and say, my dad's the one abusing me? It goes against everything we've been taught as a family, as a culture, to speak up and against somebody. And so some people get incredibly protective, and that's where we have to do our best to gain a rapport with somebody where we can start talking in a healthy way. I don't use the word normal or non-normal in my practice. I use the word healthy or unhealthy. So when I'm talking to a client and I say, so tell me about your life. Oh, I had a normal childhood. All right. Nope, nope, nope. So I grew up in a crack house, and, you know, my mom would bring different guys into the house, and yeah, I was beat by a few, and oh God, she got beat to a pulp. And it's kind of just this very, I bought 4 oranges and you got 3 grapefruit. And I'm like, oh my God, like, I'm like, what? And then I go, okay, so can we put it in a different context? Because I didn't grow up in a crack house and I wasn't beaten to a pulp. I said, is it possible that we kind of re-talk about the situation that you were in, whether you think it was healthy or unhealthy? It was the most unhealthy thing I've ever been in. Okay, now I have a place to go. Because if I start talking about the trauma created by living in a crack house or going after some of these different issues, they are going to defend their mom all day long. They love their mom. They are not going to step out of that, and I'll be fired as a therapist. Okay? So when I reword it and step into their world, step into their shoes, and give them permission to let me step into their world is when I gain some rapport. Did that answer it, Rebecca? I think we have to expand way beyond color.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I do. I empathize with that, and it answered it. And I guess to bring context to my question, in the world that we're living in, with a lot of the unrest that we're experiencing, it can kind of be a black versus white thing, or not even that. It's I said that wrong. A white counselor trying to be culturally competent with individuals of color, and recognizing them in that space.
Yeah, and I think that's a real good point. Domestic violence is up 47% right now. In the Hubbard House, the first 1 month, that sound right to you all? In that first month at Hubbard House, it was 30% higher than we've ever seen it. So the numbers are absolutely huge. And yeah, I think, but culturally, I think we have to be aware as therapists, no matter what we're doing. If I'm dealing with a Latin background, or I just think we have to constantly challenge ourselves with our own biases. There's a lot going on, but if you step into Katie's and my shoes, there's a lot of us that are being faced with our own bias. And it's ridiculous to go, I don't have any bias. Are you kidding? The smart therapist goes, what are my biases? And I'm going to go talk about them to everybody and try to get help for them. Have we been raised that way? Is that life? Yes, but it's our jobs as therapists to know what our biases are and deal with them. Next question. Oh, I'm sorry. I know we're over. Are you guys all done with this? Are you done with me? If you have
to answer questions, there was one from earlier, and I know you had sort of touched on this, but Sunita said, is it true that the chances of abuse actually increase after a partner leaves the relationship?
I think it's when they're leaving.
Right. Okay.
It's when they're leaving. I think it's at that tail end when you're starting to really indicate that you're going to be gone, that you want to leave. That's when it's the deadliest. It's when you're leaving your home that it is the most deadly. And it's the most deadly when you reach that. I've tried to leave 6 or 7 times. I got to tell you, if somebody's told me they've made a real effort and they tell me they're at time 6 and they're leaving at time 7, I'm almost doing police escorts out because they're not going to come out alive. That's my training. That's what I know from my own clients. They don't come out alive.
I do have another question, and thank you for expanding on that as well. My question is that with all the data that's out there and with all your clinical experience, how do you advocate for gun laws in the country, or against them rather? I don't know. That's my personal stance, but what do you do about that?
Are you talking about me or you as therapist? The way
No, just generally, like how do you approach gun control in the country with, you know, with all the you know, domestic abuse, violence, murders that is carried out through weapons or guns or.
Yeah, and I think that's a broad question, right? And I appreciate
Yes.
it. Sunita, is that how you pronounce it?
Yes, that's correct.
So I think it's a broad question. Whether you're asking me whether I personally advocate is something that each therapist has to choose what they're going to do with that. Again, I think it's really important. We're Switzerland, right? It doesn't matter what I think about it when I'm talking to the client. My job is to find out whether or not there are weapons in the home. And so my job as I'm doing my eval is, are there weapons in the home? Yeah, you know, my family's hunters, or no, he just went and bought this gun. I got to tell you, I worked with a family about 1.5 years ago, and it was interesting. Dad not helpful, mom kind of closed eyes. I'm therapist for son, and I realize son at 15 beats mom. Okay, so I got a real interesting dynamic going on. Then as I did my investigating, do you know what his favorite hobby was? Real outdoorsy, kind of jack of all trades, loves the wilderness.
No, but I'm guessing hunting or something. I don't know.
Yeah, the good one. Made bows and arrows.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to tell you that you've got, this is, again, I could go on all night on this, but make sure you mentor with somebody that is in the field, pick up the phone, get to know somebody that can talk to you and help you through things. So I got real nervous in this. I got dad mad at me, mom, I'm trying to get her to realize she's in a domestic violence situation, right? And then now I'm alerted that he's not real happy with me because I'm trying to get everybody together. I sit in front of a window in my office. Where does my brain go? Bow and arrow, right here on the street. Probably not too bad. I can see this happening. I was talking to a colleague of mine, and I said, yeah, I got this family coming in today, little nervous, son makes bows and arrows. And I'm going in early. He's like, why are you going in early? And I said, well, you know, there's some really nice candles on my cocktail table, and I think I'll move those. He calls me Moeller, and he goes, Moeller, what are you doing? And I was like, going into the office early to move the candles. And he's like, if you don't get a policeman outside your door, you're not even listening to yourself. And I was like, what do you mean, Mike? He said, every instinct in you is telling you an arrow's coming through the window and you need to move candles because they're going to be weapons. You're not listening. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not listening. I had a policeman outside my door. Because we've got to get in tune with, holy moly, everything I'm going, oh, windows, should I move over? What? Listen to ourselves. But if I hadn't talked to Mike going, yeah, weird family, bows and arrows, weapons. Moeller, you're an idiot. Got it, I'm an idiot. Let's go with that. Be smart. Have a Katie, have a me, have a Mike, have somebody that you're going to call and go, does this sound good to you? Nope. And in domestic violence, Kay was my person. I miss her terribly. What else? What else do you got?
I had one question. So what services, sorry, my nephew's in the background. My question is, what services are there, or does Hubbard House provide for the abusers?
And you know, what's really sad is they lost the grant this last A really great friend of mine, colleague named Levi, used to always run the abuser side. And they shut it down this year. And that's a COVID thing, and that's a loss of a grant. And it is devastating to this community because that was the one place that the males could go get group work. That's where they were court appointed to go get their group work. The courts are very good at that. Just so you know that at every court station, Hubbard House has advocates. Hello, sweet Elizabeth, baby's dog. That every house are, now the baby got me off, baby puppy, because mine's right down here. Hubbard House has domestic violence advocates at every court. So if you walk in, they can talk you through the process. So not only that, when you're going to go get an injunction or something like that, there is an advocate there to help you walk you through those steps. You do not have to be alone to walk through this step. I'm reading something, but I can't see it. Katie, are there resources? Is that the same?
Yeah, are there resources in our community for men that are being abused? So I guess outside of Hubbard House.
Yeah.
Are there any other?
It's hard. Right now, they've just been shut down as far as I can, and you know, I probably need to go look at it again. But as far as I know, 2 to 3 months ago, they had lost all the grants to help them in. So that's probably an opening. But I got to tell you, if you contact Hubbard House, there's information. Scholzbacher House has information. There are some great community things out there.
Yeah, I think this question was about for men, not as abusers, but men who are being abused themselves.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, Hubbard House will do that too. They're just not housed at Hubbard House. Okay. There are hotels that we have that they are funneled there. And just so you all know that there is an actual Duval school at Hubbard House, in Hubbard House. So they are fully getting all kinds of school. We don't force children at the age of high school to stay at Hubbard House. So we actually have certain buses, certain cars that pick them up, drop them off, unless we think they're in any type of danger. But we try to give kids as much normalcy as possible.
And does Jasmine provide any for LGBTQ population?
Absolutely. As far as resources, they would be off the chain with that. Again, I'm going to be honest, there are so many out there. That's not my niche, so I probably don't go there. Would I refer them to Jasmine? 100%. And that's one of the things you kind of get tunneled down. But yes, I would have all those resources probably at my office listed flat out that I could go to at any time.
Any other questions?
If not, you guys, this is great. Katie knows how to get a hold of me. Happy to talk to you. You guys were just fantastic. I know I went way over. It's a lot of information. And just think, I kept it to 5 slides, 5 slides in this mouth. But it's something I'm extremely passionate about and love to help. I love to help new therapists kind of find their way. It's a great niche to be in. I wish you nothing but the best, because it's a phenomenal profession that you're entering, and you're in great hands with Katie and the people at JU. So I feel good about our future. And believe me, with everything going on, the world is experiencing PTSD, and we'll be doing that for years and years to come. I thought I was busy at the beginning of March, and I am at a full waiting list at this point. So, you know, we need you guys. Come on board. We're excited to have you, and anything I can do to help, please. It is a phone call. Pick it up. Don't hesitate.
Thank you, Patty. Are you okay if I share well, definitely I'll share your contact information, but the presentation file, is it okay if I share that too with the other handouts?
Yeah, I was kind of proud of that one yesterday.
My PowerPoint's gonna look like such junk in a few minutes.
That was the coolest thing to learn, that I could do that on Canva. I'll never go back to PowerPoint again. Shoot, I could have 2 graphics all day long.
It's beautiful. All righty. Well, I will pass that information along to them, and thank you again, as always.
Have a good night. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Bye.